Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast for May 9th, 2024. My name's Mark Hillary and I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And I'm Peter Ryan, based in Montreal. Good to be back in town, Mark, albeit probably for not very long as I contemplate the next series of trips that I've got coming up. The CX World Tour continues, but great to see you and love to find out who we've got on deck this week for our CX Files interview.
Yep. It's this week we have Steve Mosser, who is the Chief Executive and Head of Innovation at Sensée, the UK-based BPO company that has focused since their foundation on work from home. Now, we saw Sensée in the news recently, a couple of months ago, purchasing an organization in Liverpool, UK, which gave them a 1,000 person in-office contact center. So, they're going through this sort of process of engaging in a more hybrid sort of style at the moment. But the focus of our conversation was really around workforce management and what we've seen with the development of workforce management, especially since the pandemic. So that was really the sort of central core of what we talked about, really to discuss workforce management as it was before the pandemic, really kind of focused on getting the most out of people in the office. But what Sensée has really tried to do is break it down into very small chunks of time that you can schedule so that people can be working from home and can do a 2-hour shift, have 2 hours off, do another couple of hours. So to create this very flexible environment for the agents, but then to make that also fit to what their clients really want, which is, they don't want a uniform number of agents on the phones all day.
No, exactly. I think that you're hitting the nail on the head. And, I've gotten to know Sensée well over the years. I remember seeing the offices the first time when I was out in West London quite some time ago. Steve Mosser is somebody who I've had a great deal of interaction with and a huge amount of respect for. He's a dual citizen, French and American, and is really, I think, shaken things up when it comes from work from home, remote working. And now it sounds like from the standpoint of workforce management, they're taking the bull by the horns, they're picking up the baton and running with it. And that's what you would expect from a company like Sensée. They're always, I think, one step ahead of the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, it was interesting that they purchased the contact company up in Liverpool. I think because we'd always seen them as such a sort of work from home focused organization, but clearly what they're trying to do is to tap into that sort of market that insists on agents being based in a secure center. So I think that certainly sometimes if you're looking at financial services or government work, for example, then it's very hard to pitch the 100% work from home model to those. But given their experience of this kind of flexible workforce management, I think it does seem interesting that they're sort of trying to take this kind of hybrid approach, but with very, very flexible sort of working patterns for the agents. But it's also worth noting that, and I did ask Steve about this in the interview, how this really differs from what we've seen with gig CX as well. Because again, the big sell there is the complete flexibility. But he's very much a believer that you need to invest in the agents, invest in the training, give them a contract of employment so they know they've got a job next month, rather than only ever paying somebody if they answer a customer call. So they're very much trying to create flexibility, but giving people a permanent job.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when it comes right down to it, that flexibility, that pragmatism is so needed. And I think that you're spot on just in terms of recognizing the differences between industries, between verticals, and what their key drivers are going to be. Financial services drivers, in terms of how they want contact center management handled, will be very different than, say, perhaps digital enterprise or automotive. And being able to have different options at the ready, depending on the client partner is going to be so, so important. And as I say, hats off to Sensée for recognizing this.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go straight to my conversation with Steve Mosser. Steve, it's great to speak to you again. Now, I've talked a lot with your company about something that you guys call total footprint optimization. And this is around workforce management, resourcing optimization. How important is this subject and what you're doing with this for Sensée today? I mean, in a really, what we see today in BPO outsourcing, it's really competitive. So, I mean, does this actually set you guys apart?
Yes, absolutely. So, couple of things here. So, total footprint optimization refers to the fact that originally, when we set out Sensée and turn the table on bringing work to people rather than people to work, home working provides a business promise of flexibility. Um, and typically, what workforce planning teams mean by that or want of this is the have intraday ability to do multiple daily shifts, so to speak. All right. When you bring people to the workplace, workforce planning has been you have these blocks of time that you stack against the demand as best you can and within budget so that you can meet your service levels on average. And this is quite a clunky model. It's very rigid because you're dealing with typically 8-hour blocks of time. But when you bring work to people, to deliver on this flexibility, we built what we call micro staffing, which is little bits of time of 30 minutes. So all of a sudden you have 16 times more flexibility. All right. And what that meant for our clients originally in Sensée was as our for our BPO proposition is that you are buying from Sensée highly productive time, because by breaking up an 8-hour block, which has in it what we call organic overstaffing. I don't need somebody, but that's the unit I'm dealing with is this 8-hour block of time. When you break it down in 30-minute blocks that can be scheduled throughout the day, only when you need them, that means that actually I don't need 16 blocks, 8 hours. I probably need just 9 or 10. All right. What that meant was that with this micro staffing approach, is that businesses out of the box with Home Agent, which is what our product, if that makes sense, is that they would buy a highly productive resource. But what we realized over time is that actually there is a halo effect to this optimization, and this is where the total comes in with the total footprint optimization, is that actually this halo effect meant that if you played it right and if you had a holistic approach about the total footprint, rather than just, I'm just going to give a percentage of my demand to my outsourcer, is that actually we could optimize the inside as well, meaning that ultimately our partners have the ability to need less inside by putting micro staffing on all the volatility to us. So that's where total footprint, what it refers to. And yes, it is a definite USP of our approach. And Sensée has evolved over time, as I say, as we realized this and we started working closer with our partners and their own internal teams, is let's, rather than apply the standard BPO approach, let's work together so that we optimize inside out with you.
And when would this really benefit organizations the most then? Or is it something that you just use it as a standard for every client then? Or is this something that you use just to add flexibility to some contracts?
So I think the benefit is continuous. All right. But I think, look, what Sensée brings to the table, as I say, is the is these flex factors, as we call them, and that's that intraday flexibility delivered by micro staffing. It's elasticity of resource. So we contract our people are employed by us, we guarantee time, but we have created and industrialized what we call the AM model. A stands for annualized and L for lunarized, meaning that we can that the agents and our contracts with our partners every week is different, the number of hours we deliver within these elastic factors. Okay, so intraday flexibility, then elasticity, and that's by obviously day of week, week of month, and month of year. So and the final bit is the scalability, obviously with the at-home and our BYOD approach, where our people provide their own equipment secured by our SafeOS technology, means that basically we can also easily ramp up our numbers if need be for the client for seasonality as well. So the approach is continuous, and we refine it. So we define it at engagement. What are the possibilities we can do with these flex factors for each partner? And we work holistically with the client and understanding, okay, where are your pains, not just in the day, because that we're going to deal with again with micro staffing, but throughout the year or days of the week of the month. So like in insurance, and as you know, a lot of our partners are in the insurance sector. Typically in motor, there's the first day of the week and the month and the last week of the month are more peakish than what happens in the middle, sorry. So we take that same approach around, okay, well, what type of elasticity can we bring in our resourcing model with the annualized lunarized contracting model, and we inject that in the contract as well. And then we look obviously at the seasonal peaks and say, okay, well, now that's where obviously we'll need more people at that point. So how can we use the scalability potential of the model to support you with those seasonal peaks?
Okay.
So it's really continuous, and it's defined at all scales of demand throughout the year.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because in the last couple of years, we've heard a lot about gig CX, people talking about only paying agents, as they actually help customers. And obviously, this cuts out and eliminates a lot of the fat, the unused time. But you're actually suggesting that by taking this kind of micro staffing approach, you can save the clients money. But on the flip side, you're also giving the agents, full-time contracts and training and all that kind of investment in their career at the same time as creating efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a gig CX is not sustainable because for that very reason is ultimately who pays the price of waiting for the call or, actually we don't need you now. That is not a good engagement model. It's not going to drive good behaviors and good customer outcomes. And we firmly believe that. And, I was part of the startup team of Verizon, as you probably know, in the late 90s. When I created Sensée, that was absolutely what I was trying to protect from a people point of view. And, the irony is that if you do this well, and if you do total footprint optimization, micro staffing, all that stuff, everybody wins. But it's a methodology, and then you carve the resource so that basically, and also as part of this optimization effect and the halo effect is you drive engagement inside our partners' contact centers as well, because it means they no longer have to, for example, in time as this evolves, they can do steady state shifts within the bricks and mortar. So people don't need now to be starting at 6 in the morning or working late at night and then going through the dodgy parking or all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, it gives better choice for the people inside, and it drives engagement and what we term scheduling satisfaction inside. And the volatility is being taken care outside with the home agents or the client's home workers, by the way, because they can use our Team Tonic, which is our scheduling application for this. So that, and the people on the outside they self-select, so they select what they want to work. Okay, so that's a key thing, because you have to remember that there's two promises with home working and work from home has always been, there's the business promise of flexibility, but the tools that exist in the WFM, WFO space do not cater well to this, because again, they were built on the principle of bringing people to work, right? So everybody following the pandemic has been rewriting and trying to do something with scheduled bidding and all that kind of stuff, but it's still based on that principle that was bring people into the workplace. And the promise, sorry, just on the promise from a people perspective, the people that work from home has been this work-life balance. Yeah. And unfortunately, again, the toolkit doesn't work for this, because if you impose people at home shifts, it doesn't work either, because it breaks that promise. So, and I think now that, we're firmly out of a confinement and pandemic and all that, businesses have experienced home working out of obligation, but because they didn't necessarily have the right tools, didn't lead to the right people outcome either.
Yeah.
So just to loop back to the whole question around gig CX. Gig CX is, in theory, yes, it works really well, but in practice, somebody pays the price of the inefficiencies, and it doesn't have to be that way. So again, if you have the right toolkit, the right methodology, you can make it dance and sing and create these win-win scenarios for the people and the business.
Mm-hmm. But it also works for the clients then as well, I guess, that they are getting more efficiency from the process at the same time as you're giving more flexibility to the agents.
Absolutely. So, it puts within reach for our clients to have, for example, aligned teams. So an entire team's always scheduled together unless they're on holiday. Yeah, which before broke the bank, because it's extremely inefficient from a scheduling and a workforce point of view. But now, basically, with having, as I say, the ability to put the volatility outside, steady state inside, it means that you can start having these dreams come true, I guess, from a workforce planning, but mostly from a team engagement and colleague engagement point of view.
Yeah, yeah. And the next thing that I actually had on my list to ask you was really that workforce management has been around for decades. And I think that you just kind of addressed that actually by saying that the pandemic kind of tore up all the rules, and traditional workforce management has been around filling desks in offices and kind of achieving efficiency within the office environment. I mean, do you think that the traditional idea of workforce management that we knew of 5 years ago just doesn't really work anymore then?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're working on what we call WFM 3.0, which is really this next generation approach to WFM. And it's not just about work from home, it's around hybrid and in office, and helping our partners as well decide what's best for their people, what's best for their business, um, and who should be working from home, and embrace micro staffing for that, and self rostering, and yes, fundamentally the things have changed dramatically. Now, all the big players out there are catching up obviously really quickly, but as I say, they are rewriting the foundations of all the software that and the Calabrios of this world, and Nice, etc. They need a different approach, because it's changed, and we are firm believers that you drive the best outcomes from a people perspective in terms of engagement, schedule adherence, etc., if you empower them to choose when they work. And that's what Team Tonic, our own tool, has been built on.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you if you could comment maybe on the employee engagement. Your kind of the engagement of the colleagues around you, because I mean, a lot of people who choose to work from home are doing it because they want more flexibility around their work-life balance. They have commitments. They might be able to not work Friday afternoon. They might need time to look after their parents or their kids, so and this is a modern reality now. I mean, you look around, and this is actually a major factor for many people, and a lot of LinkedIn discussions lead on this now. But does this mean that the location, so working from home, is not enough? You can't have work from home, but then the company dictates when you're going to be working. So it's really this combination of work from home plus the kind of good workforce planning that you're talking about that ends up creating great colleague engagement.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. In essence, that's it, is one of the things that happened when people in a hurry put people at home during the lockdowns was, okay, well, no, you're going to be working to the same schedule, and basically was like, well, that doesn't work for me because I need to do the homeschooling, or I need to do this, or I need to do that, right? It's what we call work-life collision. That's what we term it. And therefore, but there was a high tolerance from businesses. Oh, but it's okay then, Mark, you don't, yeah, okay, we understand. It doesn't matter. Don't show up, and it's fine. And, so there was a high tolerance to that because, everybody was in panic mode, essentially, right? And everybody was trying to do their best. So there was a high tolerance from a business point of view, saying, okay, it's okay, don't adhere to your schedule. We understand you need to do homeschooling. And from a people point of view, there was a high tolerance to, yeah, okay, I know you're doing your best, and I'm thankful for you. I still have a job, and I'm still able to contribute something. So it's okay. I understand that you don't have the right tools, or that you're making it up as you go along. So the people also had a high tolerance. But as we exited that tolerance disappeared. However, many contact centers, as you know, realized all of a sudden, actually, you know what? We can put people at home, and there are definite business benefits, right? And therefore they said, well, no, actually, now you're going to stay at home, but they still don't have the toolkit, right? So it's disengaged a lot of people, and that's why there's been what was it called, the big resignation or whatever, that movement was a lot of people saying, you know what, actually, now I've discovered the virtue of, this work-life balance. I don't want to give that up. But if I'm going to continue working for you, then I will not accept work-life collision. So you need to do something that's aligned to what I want and I need as one of your workers, employees.
Yeah. I mean, it seems that this is a key USP that BPOs in general, not just Sensée, but when we compare to an in-house contact center team, one of the things that a company like yours can say is not just that, we have better systems, we've got better experience in customer service, et cetera, but we have these systems around flexibility and genuine flexibility of being able to match talent to contact volumes. And it seems like this is a real change that's seriously sort of just happened since the pandemic.
Yeah, but there's been, a bit of cynical change, is that, as I say, traditionally BPOs was like, take a percentage of this, you figure out how many people you need to deal with that volume within the service levels that are agreed in our contracts and TNCs, to the realization, well, actually, that you're just basically, you're taking the problem and you're dividing it by percentage by supply. Yeah. But everybody's wrestling with the same conundrum, right? Matching workforce with workload. And following all that we just talked about, what's happened is a lot of the agreements, commercial agreements now are, this is why it's moving a lot to outcome-based contracts. And because the idea of that is, look, I don't care as a buyer. I don't care how many people you need to throw at this. What I care is about the outcome. So it's for you to figure out how you're going to do it. And, it's not it. And that's so it's shifted the thinking from, let's divvy up the problem and everybody's dealing with the same problem in their own way. But then you're accountable on SLA and obviously KPI baskets to actually, I care about the outcome and I don't care how you get to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what we're trying to say is, well, look, there's a better way. Is, look, it's if we're going to say we're partners, it's about a partnership. Let's understand what are the key issues here, what are the key pinch points, the troughs, peaks, et cetera, and again, is let us work with you holistically, looking at the whole, not just the part. Don't just treat us as a part, because we can help drive better outcomes inside from a people perspective and from a customer perspective as well, by applying total footprint optimization. So, it's and ultimately what it means for clients and partners is that they ultimately will need less resource overall to deliver better service and better customer experiences and outcomes. And it's circa 10 to 15% depending on the profile of demand.
And does it help then for this kind of optimization planning to be able to mix and match some team members in office alongside work from home, or does it not really matter?
So with the recent acquisition of the contact company, we now have 1,200 seat contact center in Liverpool, and in some cases, because it is so game changing, total footprint optimization. It is hard, as change is always hard, especially on fundamentals like practices, as you say, that have been, there's a Bible of workforce planning. You say, tear that up and let us show you the way. So, realistically, that's not always possible. So, or it takes time. So what we can do now is we can do our own total footprint optimization in the delivery of what the client gives us, by mixing and doing the steady state inside, volatility outside. And then that demonstrates to them the power of total footprint optimization within the constraints of what they're handling to us, before they start thinking, what do we need to change inside to have the full total footprint optimization.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, just to wrap up then, has that changed how you go to market now, how you're talking to prospective customers? Because, for years, everybody's always known Sensée as the work from home people. So now that you have 1,000 people in Liverpool, are you sort of openly talking about hybrid solutions, or has the message not really changed?
No, it's definitely changed, because obviously, but it gives us a really great opportunity, as I say, to demonstrate best practice and, work from home and hybrids and in the flesh. Yeah, literally, because we're now able to say, well, because, often we got to conversations, oh, but you understand how it happens inside the building, And so I said, well, no, we do. Well, now we do, but now, and here's the proof in the pudding. So absolutely, and it also, there is some work that can't be done at home for whatever reason. Okay, it happens, right? So not everything can be virtualized and distributed. So, for us, it gives us a more opportunity for different types of demands for our clients, not just front office, back office as well. And as I say, we can demonstrate now to the clients, that immediately, the benefits, and give them savings in having this hybrid delivery.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favourite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.